You're watching the 2023 World Lacrosse Men's Championship presented by Rady Children's Hospital. On deck, it's the battle for 11th place. Who is going to be the 11th best team in the world for the year 2023? Ireland or Germany? As we take a look at the Germans right there, and number 9 in green, Connor Kelly. He's the netminder for Ireland. A little bit of a two-headed monster between him and Joe Walsh. Fleshes out one of the better goaltending duos in the entire tournament. As both these teams so proud to represent their respective nations. As there he is right there, Misha Zinoviev. Zinoviev is going to be the netminder for the Germans. And we couldn't have asked for a better day. Beautiful sunny San Diego providing beautiful day after beautiful day. 75 and sunny to nobody's surprise. As Misha Zinoviev will do his best to limit the fiery Ireland offense. Led by number 18, Connor Foley. Connor Foley has impressed everyone. He's been a head-turner for this Irish squad. As both teams come together, the goaltenders are going to shake hands. Zinoviev shakes hands with Kelly. They head back to their respective nets. And opening faceoff, mere moments away for the last time here for Ireland and Germany in what's been a fantastic tournament so far. Notable absence for Team Ireland, Rory Dunbar, who's their normal face-off man, unfortunately suffered an injury. Replacing him is going to be Brian Smith. Brian Smith, a do-it-all player for Ireland. You'll see him on defense, on offense, and heck, Dunbar goes out. He's even going to take a couple draws. The opening face-off so important as the time of possession is going to be incredibly valuable, more particularly for the Germans who have a slow, methodical approach. As guys like Peranders Olters get ready, and it is going to be Brian Smith with the opening faceoff as he flicks it back to Andy Myers. And we're underway here in San Diego. And the Irish get the first chance here as the Germans press out a little bit. Matthias Lehne, so dangerous, and I would argue that he's the best defenseman wearing white today. Though going to be a tough matchup with guys like Tyga Reardon as they get their preferred personnel on the field and get ready to initiate. That's Tommy Burke coming in as we see Ireland with their first dodge of the day. A rollback shot and goes just wide. Luke Palmadesso, you'll be hearing his name quite a bit.
Who's 99? 42, you said?
And the first shot of the game goes to Ireland, although it goes just wide. Feed up top. Here's Tommy Burke. Tommy Burke moves it, and good double team by the Germans right there. Good organization. I thought they were broken down for just a second, but their recovery, very impressive. Although that pick play gets dangerous. Connor Foley, a little bit of space. Foley's bounce shot goes high. And it's Ireland with the entire time of possession here to kick things off in the first quarter. That's their third shot of the game, though they haven't hit the cage yet. They are getting the looks. Speaking of looks, it's the first save by Misha Zinoviev off of another good look. I believe that was Palmadesso, out of the stick of Palmadesso. So Zinoviev gets in on the action early here as the first shot that was on net is a save, and now the Germans can take their time moving the ball up the field. Catching up with the German coaching staff before the game here today, one of the things that they really take pride in is that this is an authentic representation of Germany, of the lacrosse scene in Germany. Every single one of their players lives and trains in Germany as they look to push the pace here. And they settle in. Again, keep an eye out for number 36, Peranders Olters. He is the man that can do it all. Adam Eakins from the United States, but him and his dad moved out to Germany. So born in the U.S., but still an authentic representation. And now it's Florian Werner. Werner teeing up Jack Galvin. Werner goes underneath. Is he going to take a chance at it? No, he decides against it, moves it behind the cage as the first shot for the Germans goes near side. Sting, welcome to the party per Anders Olters. And the first goal is a beauty at that. The elevator near side off of good ball movement. You see the dodge, you see the pass to the backside, and you give Olters space. Connor Kelly, one of the better goaltenders in this entire tournament, former Notre Dame grad, gives up the near side elevator. Normally those near side low to high shots are a heat check that come in the third and fourth quarters after the offense has had a chance to settle in. So good job by Olters on the very first shot that he takes to sting it. Very impressive. And there he is. Brian Smith wins his second faceoff of the day. Faceoffs and time of possession have been a bit of an Achilles heel for Germany today. As Ireland has dominated the time of possession, however, on the first shot of the game, Germany takes the 1-0 lead. But again, this Irish offense, so dangerous. Catching up with their coaching staff, they said that they have been very proud of how much the team has grown every single game. As dodged down the alley, pass back up top to Sean Gibson. Gibson to the backside. Here's Somerville. Somerville tries to move it down low. Good job catching that pass by Maloney. And a good job and a good start by this German defense. This is a lethal Irish offense. But Germany's organization stands tall. Beat up top, lefty down the alley, and another save. Zinoviev, 2 for 2 so far on shots on cage. Not only is he making saves, but he is not giving up rebounds. Something that is so important, although you got to clear effectively, especially if you're not winning faceoffs. The Irish 2 for 2 on faceoffs today, so those possessions are so valuable, and a turnover in the clear is exactly what you need to avoid as Ireland looks to tie it up here. Big running start for Tadhg O'Riordan. O'Riordan gets to his right hand, tries to feed to the middle. Interesting start for the Irish offense. They certainly have their foot on the gas here, but is it too much on the gas? O'Riordan's first dodge after the turnover looks to pass it right to the middle of the field. And the German defense was ready for that, and as the ball trickles out, the Germans get a chance to clear it again. They do, and here comes Florian Werner with the ball. As there's the man of the hour, per Anders Olters. He's the only goal scorer here today so far. He moves it over to Eakins. Eakins taking his time, getting set up. As here's Jacob Bockerman. Bockerman moves it back over to Olters, back up to Bockerman. Bockerman calls his own number, tries to get a little bit of space, dodges to his right hand, lowers his shoulder. Good job by Jack Galvin to stand tall to that attempted bull dodge. As Germany plays a little bit of a two-man game, there's Volkordson. He moves it over. And Germany in a bit of a dangerous area there. That was Eakins. As here's Volkordson. Volkordson moves it over to Werner. And Werner is going to give Lucas here's Bockerman. And Germany in the dangerous areas of the field, they get a shot off, and it trickles in as Eakins tries to feed. Olters on the backside, tips off of his stick, and crosses the goal line going about 3 miles an hour. An unfortunate break for the Irish as we see Eakins get to a dangerous area of the field, and look at how he tries to pass it. And Connor Kelly tracked it, but those deflections are impossible to read. And as we head into the first break, it's the German offensive efficiency that gives them a 2-0 lead. We welcome you back to the action where Germany has escaped to a 2-0 lead here in the first quarter, although this has been a strength for the Irish. It's been the face-off, and Brian Smith wins his third of the game as he remains perfect. Now, Ireland has pushed the pace on offense, some would argue to a detriment. They've gotten a number of shots. Those shots haven't hit cage, and if they have, it's been Zinoviev standing tall. So patience is going to be the name of the game for the Irish coming out of the break. Can they rely on those second and third dodges after the German defense has been broken down? Good job by the Germans to stay organized on the backside. But keep in mind, there is no quit in this Irish team. If they find themselves down, they're one of the best teams at scrapping back and making everything a game. They're only 2 losses in the tournament by 1 goal. And their best representation of that comeback was against Israel. Found themselves down a couple goals before fighting back. Paul Modesto thinks about taking advantage of the short stick from behind the cage and decides against it as Ireland sets in. Here's Connor Foley, one of the better players. He gets a pick from O'Riordan. Foley moves it to the backside. Shot goes just wide as Tommy Burke tries to beat Zinoviev. Unsuccessful. Good start for this German defense and goalie combination here. And we'll see what Ireland tries to do to crack the case. And that is exactly what they needed to do. Give it to number 42, Pat Corbett, who bullies his way to a spot where he was not going to be denied. And Pat Corbett makes it a 1-goal game here off of the great individual effort, receives the feed from behind the net and realizes that Matthias Lena, hey, you're going to play me out. Look at the backhanded shovel, giving Zinoviev no chance. Those shots are so hard to track. You're expecting a left-handed shot, maybe one that you can read. Those shovel shots, you don't know where they're going. As Corbett, with a little bit of flash, ends the scoring drought for the Irish. And what's dangerous here is so far they've been playing, or would be playing, make it, take it, out of the stick of Brian Smith, who's won every single face-off here today. And he continues that streak here, although he is hounded by the German wing players. Alexander Benaisa, such a dangerous threat on the wing for the Germans, always trying to get in there and do his best. As there's Aidan Dempsey. This Ireland offense loaded with talent. No shortage of it. Although they have been held to 1 goal. Zinoviev with a couple saves. Watch out, here comes Somerville. He dodges to his left, moves it up top. O'Riordan. O'Riordan had the game winner in an incredible double overtime game versus Latvia. Is he going to get on the board today? Pass up top to Foley. Foley dodges it down. Really good organization by the Germans here. Foley beats his man, draws a double, feeds it inside. Save! Zinoviev. He stuffs Tiger Reardon on the crease, but really well done. That's exactly what you're looking for if you're the Irish offense. One of the interesting things, even though that was a front doorstep save, that could be a little positive momentum for the Irish offense, saying, hey, when we play effectively, we are going to get good looks. Now it's just a matter of beating the men in net. Misha Zinoviev starting off hot here today, keeping Ireland to just 1 goal on a number of looks. Got to keep an eye out for that man right there. Per Anders Olters, he has, we'll call it 1.5 goals. A great near side sting, and then a feed to him on the backside of the crease, bounced off of his stick and just floated into the goal. As here comes Simon Wimmer. Wimmer dodges to his right. Is he going to lean in? No, he is not. He moves it behind. Germany putting their foot on the gas a little bit here as Volkordson takes it to his left before rolling back, passing it back to Wimmer. Wimmer is going to dodge on Tiger Reardon. Wimmer splits to his left, rolls back to his right, looks for the skip pass, nothing there. Germans decide to move it around the horn. As here's Adam Eakins. Eakins, dangerous threat. And unfortunately, that is going to be a turnover as Eakins looked to move it to Volkordson. Volkordson unable to handle it as Andy Myers, he's a bit of a tank running down the field. When he gets a full head of steam, he can be a dangerous one. And watch out here. As Myers moves to the backside. Connor Foley, number 18 green, so dangerous with those skip passes. He was looking up to Aiden Dempsey. But again, I'll continue to say it. This German organization, good. As O'Riordan gets a shot off. And another save, Zinoviev. O'Riordan's shot so dangerous. He tried to go 5 holes. Zinoviev gets down low, makes the save. And here comes Germany. Simon Wimmer scoops up the ball. And this is a great battle between the Irish offense and the German defense here so far. The German backside organization making it difficult to find skip passes. So you might be wondering, what can Ireland do better? Well, it's a difficult ask when you break down the defense. You look for the backside, and you see 2 to 3 men in white in the lane. So keep an eye out if you're watching and trying to break down film. Look at the German organization as Bockerman dodges to his right. He's going to move it behind. As Volkordson gets to his left. And sweep to the middle of the field. Denied by Ireland. Watch out. Still trying. Peranders Olters moves it down low. Bockerman. As here's Adam Eakins. He's testing the waters. And Irish counters the Germans' good defense with good defense themselves. High-level lacrosse here being played. As there's Perander Olters. He moves it over to Volkordson. Volkordson, the lefty, trying to sweep. But Brendan Bowles there says, you're not going to get to your left hand, not on my watch. Eakins initiates from behind, coming off the pick. Gets above GLE, rolls back. Shot goes just wide. Very good job by Pat Smith to keep Eakins in check. He got the shot off. And with 1 minute left to play in the half, Germany looking to regain the 2-goal lead. Is it going to be that man, Florian Werner? Really impressive defense all around here today. As watch out, here comes Volkordson. Volkordson skips it up top on the rollback. Misses the trail check, and Connor Kelly gets in on the action with a great stick side save on none other than Peranders Olters. Connor Kelly's first save of the game, a big one at that from a dangerous area of the field. And a flag down here on the backside of the action. Looks like it's going to be a 30-second technical hold, potentially on Jacob Bockerman of Germany, which would be a big opportunity with 26 seconds left here in the first quarter of play. Or pardon me, that is not Bockerman. That is Peranders Olters with the hold. So the Irish will see if they try to tie it up before we head to the second quarter. Starts in the stick of Tyag O'Riordan. No shortage of weapons, but Zinoviev, the netminder, number 13 in white, has played out of his mind here so far in the first quarter. O'Riordan shot, goal! Tyag O'Riordan with the placement, and his shot around the German defense didn't give Zinoviev a chance to make a read. As Ireland takes advantage of the man up to tie it up with 12 seconds left here in the first quarter as we go back to the play. Look at this, shooting around the defenseman, and great placement. Zinoviev had a read on it, but what O'Riordan did so well was shoot it around the defenseman in front of him, and that causes the reaction for the goalie to just be a split second later than it normally is, and that is plenty of room for O'Riordan to tie up the game here. And barring anything crazy from happening, although that might classify, with 5 seconds left, we'll see if there's any magic left for either team. And with no automatic possession, the helmet comes off. We're going to have one of the rare face-offs that is not at the middle of the field. Gotta love to see this. Never know what you're going to see here at the World Lacrosse Men's Championship. 5 seconds left. And a good tie-up is going to take us to the end of the quarter here. End of the first quarter. It is the man-up opportunity for Ireland that tied it up heading into the break. Germany 2, Ireland 2. We welcome you back to second quarter action in what has the makings of a barn burner. Ireland 2, Germany 2, as the opening faceoff, and every faceoff for that matter, has been won by Ireland. And Brian Smith does it again. And here come the Irish. Andy Myers pushing transition, moves it down low, shot, and a great job by Matthias Lena to get in the shooting lane. Took one off the head from Aiden Dempsey. As the referees are going to take a quick check. Hey, you just got hit in the head with that shot. Y'all good. Lena, one of the toughest defensemen in this entire tournament. He's no stranger to contact. Has a good job initiating some offense, but great job. That's what you want to do. You want to sell out for your team, sell out for your country, and do exactly that. I'm Nick Osello. Thank you very much for joining me at this 11th place matchup here today between Ireland and Germany. This game has featured a little bit of everything, and there is the man of the hour right there, Connor Foley. Foley's so dangerous. O'Riordan feeds it to the middle. Shot. Goal. Aiden Dempsey wide open on the crease. And Tiger Reardon putting together a great game. Not only did he score the last goal, but look at the pass. Not only the accuracy, but he recognizes it right away and just says, all right, you're going to leave him open. I'm going to give my man Aiden Dempsey the chance to finish. A rare collapse by the German defense to leave a guy as dangerous as Dempsey open on the crease. And Ireland gets their first goal of the day. Something that Germany needs to avoid is falling behind, especially when you're losing the face-off battle. Always tough to claw and scrap your way back. But that's what we talked about at the top of the show. This Ireland team, do never count them out as Brian Smith wins the face-off forward. Great collapse by the German wing players to say, hey, Brian Smith, I appreciate that you're winning all the face-offs, but we cannot let you convert those into goals. And here comes Germany. Patrick Schilling with the ball in his stick as he solo missions the clear up the field. As there's Peranders Olters. Olters so dangerous. He had a beautiful low to high near side lefty snipe in the first quarter as he's accounted for both of Germany's goals. As Winton Bastian, he moves it up to Florian Werner, and here comes Bockerman. Bockerman's been initiating a lot of offense for the Germans. Dodges to his left, rolls back to his right. Very impressive to keep his momentum on that rollback. Not easy to do. And Germany decides to initiate and try their chances from behind. Swim move. Gets to his left hand. Shot, and a great save by Connor Kelly. Volkordson, the dangerous lefty, swims to his left. Connor Kelly hugs that near side pipe. Doesn't allow the goal to go in as Adam Eakins backs down his defender. Throws the fake skip pass. Ireland doesn't bite. And it's going to be Werner trying to dodge to his right. Great short stick defense right there. Jack Galvin, how you doing? Not allowing Werner to get to the middle of the field. Although coming off of the pick, it is still very good defense. Speaking of good defense, Patrick McShane jumps the pass, picks it off, and here comes the Irish. Pass to Connor Foley. Foley moves it down low. And back to Foley. Shot goes just wide. That unsettled situation, so dangerous. Even though Germany had collapsed and gotten back to all even in numbers, it's the organization that matters just as much as the recovery. So great hustle and determination shown by Germany off of the interception from Patrick McShane. Ireland can capitalize so effectively. But a penalty is going to give Ireland their second man-up opportunity of the day. Their first man-up was a goal by Tiger Reardon, number 4, who has the ball right there. He shot around the German defense, using Germany as a screen against Germany. As Reardon, he moves it up to Paul Modesto. Paul Modesto feeds it inside, although he was harassed and surrounded. Reardon to the backside. Corbett behind the back pass. What a goal! Aiden Dempsey with the finish, but it's the pass that was perfection by Pat Corbett. as we see a great job to maintain possession, feed inside to Corbett, and as he's hounded, just the crafty, nifty, beautiful, behind-the-back feed with touch, no less, to Dempsey, who has his second doorstep goal of the day. 95 in green. 2 goals and 2, we'll call them easy at that, although Zinoviev has played very well today. Those man-up opportunities converting into goals, so it's up to Germany to stay out of the box. And it starts with possession right there. Certainly what you wanted to see as Alexander Benaisa scoops up the loose ball, and the Germans, Matthias Lehne moves it back to Zinoviev, can take their time. I've been impressed with this German offense, in particular the two-headed monster of Perander, Olters, and Lars Volkordsen, 22 and 36 in white. Keep an eye out on them. As Germany successfully clears the ball, Peter Wittmann, he moves it up to Winton Bastian. Bastian taking his time. The Irish short stick defensive midfielders have been very effective, as we see right there. Bastian gets ready to initiate, goes underneath, shot goes just wide. Great little twister, deceptive shot. Even though it went wide, that shot was trickier than it might have appeared on screen. As Eakins gets ready to initiate, he moves it up to Bockerman. Bockerman's been challenging these Irish short stick defensive midfield, and this Andy Myers versus Bockerman battle has been very fun to watch. Brief pause to make sure that they can straighten out the goal. Might have been Connor Kelly that accidentally hit the pipe, knocked it off that perfect 90-degree angle that the referees make sure. And shot, and the great near side bouncer. Are you kidding? Kailuka Sontowski welcomes himself to the party. And Germany cuts it back to a 1-goal game. Don't go anywhere. Ireland 4, Germany 3. If you can believe it, I misspoke and accredited the wrong goal scorer on the call last, but it is that man right there, Peranders Olters, with the absolute near side bouncer that made this yet again a 1-goal game, as Ireland has been dominating the faceoff. Although, watch out, here comes Kins moving the ball forward. Shot goes high. I think Ireland wanted a violation right there. They were so confident that Lucas Kins jumped early, they just stopped playing. As there's Peranders Olters, the man of the hour. All 3 German goals here today, including the last bouncer to the near side. As impossible a shot to stop as you will see. But Winton Bastian, he has 7 goals this tournament. Don't sleep on him. Werner with the ball. Werner moves it up to Bockerman, as Bockerman and Andy Myers maybe get ready for another head-to-head matchup. What a treat this has been. Dodges to his left. Watch out, Bockerman with some space. He moves it forward. And it's going to be Florian Werner trying to initiate. He moves it back up to Eakins. Eakins to the backside. There's Bastian getting to the middle of the field. Good defense and good help as Bockerman. Good ball movement by the Germans here as Olters. So dangerous. He commands the respect. Germany decides to go from behind. Volkordsen, the crafty lefty. Werner moves it up to Bastian. Back to Werner. Werner gets ready to dodge on Andy Myers. He's been lights out so far. Pass to the backside. Shot. What a save. Connor Kelly kicked right off of his foot. Deflected off the Irish defenseman. And Patrick McShane comes up with the loose ball. And here comes Andy Myers. He has been an absolute stud in the first half here so far. Playing defense, pushing transition, doing it all. Pat Corbett with the ball in his stick. He had a beautiful behind-the-back assist. As Somerville moves it over to Tig O'Riordan. O'Riordan's going to be dodging on Benaisa. As there's Connor Foley. Foley takes his defenseman behind, comes right around the pick, gets a little bit of an angle. Shot, save! Zinoviev playing so well here today. As watch out, the unsettled situation moves it to the backside. Aiden Dempsey again, and another save. Misha Zinoviev standing on his head. He moves it out to Benaisa, and now here comes Germany. What a great series of events for number 13 in white, netminder Misha Zinoviev. Not making one incredible save, but two incredible saves as Aiden Dempsey yet again found himself on the doorstep after that Irish ride caused a turnover in one of those oftentimes dangerous, unsettled situation in your own end. Got to be so careful. But apparently not as careful if you got Zinoviev in net. What a performance he's had here today. And watch out. Kailuka Santowski tried his hand. He was in a dangerous area of the field. Felix Kins. There's a man of the hour right there, Peranders Olters. He tries to get to his left hand. Very good defense by Pat Smith right there. Great defense by Pat Smith. Ball comes on the ground and a big hit by O'Riordan. And before that hit was initiated, the German coaching staff decides to take a timeout and says, let's not have that unsettled situation cost us. We need to do our best to tie this game up. They've had some success on offense here so far, although Connor Kelly's put together quite a game himself. It's been the Irish defense and recovery, and the German defense for that. We got a good defensive game here going. But Peranders Olters, number 36, he does not like that far side. All of his goals have been near side so far, and beauties at that one. So look for the two-headed monster of Peranders Olters and Lasvel Kordson. Both crafty lefties, certainly not afraid to release as we see the German defense unit get together, come together, game plan on how they're going to stop this Irish offense. 4 minutes, 30 seconds left here. I'm Nick Ocello. Thank you very much for joining me for this 11th place game. Talking to the German coaching staff before this game, he said about 65% of this team, roughly, are U21 grads, meaning the U21 German national team. And one of the first things that they were quick to say is that their coaches did such a good job preparing Germany for this tournament here today. So the pipeline for Germany, something dangerous. They got some young studs over there, homegrown, and the future is bright for this German squad. And we'll see if they can cut the lead to 0 and tie it up here. 4 minutes, 30 seconds left as they get settled to initiate right here. Felix Kins shifty, gets to his right hand, moves it up top into the middle, couldn't handle it. Those passes are so difficult. Even though Olters was open, he was about 4 to 5 yards away as the great German ride knocks it out of the stick of Pat Smith. Very well done by Kailuka Santowski. And that is exactly what the Germans ordered. With 4 minutes remaining, a great ride into a turnover can have such an impact on the game, especially a close game like this. You're looking for any ways to get a little bit of momentum as Werner dodges to his right, has a little bit of space, so he decides to bounce away from his defenseman. And the Germans like to initiate from behind the net every so often, pass back to behind the net. Adam Eakins, originally from the United States, but him and his father moved to Germany, and he draws the flag, skips it right through the heart of the Irish offense. They move it down to the crease. And Florian Werner, good vision right there. Just didn't put enough pepper on it to find the open crease attackman for Germany, and a big opportunity for Germany. Ireland has done such a good job taking their man-up opportunities and converting them to goals. Germany gets a chance to counter here as we are under 3 minutes to play in the first half here in beautiful, sunny San Diego. Volkordson is going to take that top center position as they go into a 1-4-1 man-up set. Look for some off-ball movement on the backside as that throwback right there, exactly what they're planning. Shot goes off. And again, Bastian tries to shoot it to the near side. Great off-ball movement by the Germans right there. That 1-4-1 action, you might be thinking, why are they trying to crowd the crease so the guys can cut? And that is the end of the penalty as a little bit of space. Good job by Pat Smith to get his stick in the shooting lane as Adam Eakins, ever the opportunist, and it's a 4-on-1 loose ball. Germany needs to come up with it, and they do. Germany has dominated the time of possession the last 3 to 4 minutes here. Need to convert this to a goal and tie up the game, as this has been a big ask from the Irish defense. Peranders Olters gets to his left. He throws back. Winton Bastian. Bastian moves it down to Volkordson. Volkordson, the lefty. Look for him to come over, and that swim move so dangerous. Shot, great save, Connor Kelly. The Germans loving that near side pipe. Connor Kelly's IQ grows as he continues to make those near side stops, keeping it a 1-goal game for Ireland. And look at this man right here, Andy Myers. Nobody's going to be questioning his conditioning. A lot of lacrosse played in not a very long time period. Players with bumps and bruises, and in the last game of the tournament for Ireland, Andy Myers looks like he shot out of a cannon. That looked like it was his first game of the tournament. Obviously did his preparation and his cardio. And with just over 1 minute left to play, Ireland has a chance to make it a 2-goal game. Connor Foley with the ball. Great defense by Marius Boots. Boots, one of the better defensemen on this German unit. As watch out, Ireland looks to break down this German defense. Open space on the backside. Paul Modesto shot, and there he is again, Matthias Lehna. Lehna not only gets the second block of the day, but with 40 seconds, gets the loose ball. Lehna putting together quite a performance here today. Earlier we saw him stop the ball with his head. As watch out, oh, and right, oh, you hate to see it, right as Peranders Olters gets underneath on the crafty toe drag. The German coaching staff decides to take their second timeout of the half and come together and organize. Peranders Olters, love the reaction from him right there. Didn't do his palms up. Hey, coach, you got to trust me. You got to give me the ball and let me do what I do. He just says, no worries, let's come in and put together a game plan, as we saw, I believe that was Peter Whitman, come by and say, hey, no worries, brother. Sometimes that just happens. And the matchup to me, the matchup to watch, is number 1 in Germany, Jacob Bockerman, versus the short stick defensive midi, Andy Myers of Ireland. So far, Myers has stood tall, as we see Bockerman right there. The reason I call out that matchup is Bockerman oftentimes is initiating from up top. He's going to be the person that kicks off the action every so often. And if he can start winning that matchup consistently and creating separation, that's going to cause the Irish defense to slide more than they have been. This Irish defense started off by sliding. Germany was able to get some really good looks in the first quarter. And as the game has progressed, Ireland has been able to rely more and more on their individual matchups. So Bockerman, as we see him right there, great hair coming out of the back of the bucket right there. We'll see if he can create a little bit more separation from his defenseman. And with 30 seconds left here in the first half, Germany coming out of a timeout. We'll see what they put together. As Bastian starts with it, moves it over to Bockerman. Bockerman to Werner. Werner gets to his right hand, middle of the field, tries to throw back to Bockerman. Bockerman scoops it up. Just over 15 seconds left. Bockerman with his right hand, and we're now at the 10-second mark, and here comes Bastian. Bastian decides to roll back, tries to get a shot off, and almost a look what I found situation as bodies are flying in the middle of the field, and a flag comes down. little bit of finger pointing from Germany and from Ireland. Looks like that flag's going to be on Ireland, given how the Germans are fist bumping each other. And a little bit of chaos here in the last 5 seconds as we saw Bastian try that back check and a big pop right there. And it was that right there as Jack Galvin did not like that Bastian made a big pop. So it's never the first guy, it's always the second guy. Second guy in this case is wearing green. And making sure that nothing gets a little bit too chippy as two big hits to end out the first half here. And I think one of the things that the referees are going over right now, are we going to put any more time on the clock? And are we truly? And after the Irish coach pleads his case, it's going to be another flag coming down. Referees say, I don't like how the coaching staff is talking to me. And it's going to be number 13, Sean Gibson, I believe. Might be the in-home, as I saw the referees just make the call right there. Certainly an interesting end to the half here. And is there going to be any more time put on the clock? As we see Aiden Dempsey right there. And that is going to be the end of the first half, and a wild ending at that. Penalties, big hits, and what's been good defense after good defense for both teams. But after one half of play, it is Ireland 4, Germany 3 in a battle for 11th place here at the 2023 World Lacrosse Championship. We welcome you back to the 11th place game, Ireland-Germany. Ireland taking the 1-goal lead. But right at the end of the second quarter, fireworks ensued, bodies going all over the place. And Ireland is going to start 2 men down. Not only one for an illegal body check, but the coaches, as they tried to argue their point, found themselves with a misconduct. A big opportunity for Germany to tie it up. Anytime you're up 2 players, it is ball movement. That's the key. We'll see what they decide to do with it. And as they settle in here, shots are going to be wide open as we welcome Joe Walsh to the game. He replaces Connor Kelly. They've been doing that all tournament long. One half for one goalie, another half for the other. As watch out, shot, goal! Winton Bastian punishes the top of the cage. And Germany ties it up, not only taking advantage of the 2-man advantage, but doing so in style as the low to high absolutely punishes just underneath the crossbar. Welcome to the show. Certainly the start that you were looking to have if you're Germany, as one of the penalties is released. The second is not, and I'm not quite sure what Andy Myers was thinking right there, as he literally just ran out of the box. I don't know what case he's pleading, but as soon as the faceoff was done, or as soon as the faceoff whistle happened, he just felt like running up and getting in on the action. So it's going to be Germany with their first chance to take a lead in this game, or pardon me, to regain the lead. After starting off hot, Ireland recaptured it as Florian Werner is going to kick things off here for the Germans. Werner's going to be going against Jack Galvin. He moves it over. There's the man, Bockerman. On a beautiful, positive Friday afternoon, as watch out, Adam Eakins tries to back down his defender. Unsuccessful. As there's Olters. Olters goes to his right, going to be attending Dominican College of University as they welcome themselves back into Division II. And there is a turnover. Brendan Bowles. Bowles not only has the ball, but he's pushing the pace a little bit as watch out, double team inbound, but he gets it out of his stick, moves it to Foley. Foley up top to Palmadesso. And the Irish get a chance to reclaim the lead themselves. A great back and forth affair this game has been. Each team showcasing and highlighting what makes them so special. Talking to the Irish coaching staff before the game, he said the team comes together for 2 weeks. You always know who the players are going to be, but they don't get to spend every day together for a year leading up to it. So in those 2 weeks, he said it might sound cliche, but this team comes together as family. And I believe his exact words were, it might sound cliche, but it's the Irish way, as their grit has taken them through this entire tournament. Turnover, and watch out! Tommy Burke puts Fritz Kleinhempel on the floor. Burke held up a little bit. That one could have easily been a penalty if Burke decided to really put his effort into it. Decides against it to maintain possession. Smart play as Paul Modesto's shot. Another save by Zinoviev. Said his name a number of times here today as Germany gets ready to push the pace. They have the numbers on a fast break here, although the unsettled situation is now going to allow Ireland to press the pace. Pole on pole. Get it out of the stick of Benaisa, he says. And unfortunately for Germany, that turnover is going to be very costly. And is it going to cost them a goal on the backhand shovel pass? Beautiful shot and another great save. Although the rebound, another diving shovel shot. Connor Foley in a beautiful display of stick skills from Pat Corbett and Connor Foley. Although there is a little bit, is this going to be a goal? Referee and Foley. As we go back to a replay right here, look at the shovel pass right there. And Zinoviev, great body positioning, but Foley gets it right back, dives, and gets it in the net. About 15 different things happened in half a second right there. And it looks like that goal is going to stand. So Ireland regains the lead here off of an absolute beauty from Connor Foley. Faceoffs have been an advantage for the Irish. So that goal could potentially be 2 here as Brian Smith wins the clamp, exits to himself. Keep in mind, Rory Dunbar, he's an absolute stud. He's usually who you see at the faceoff X for Ireland, but unfortunately suffered an injury earlier in this tournament. Brian Smith, his brother Pat on the team as well. So 2 Smith brothers. Brian, number 88 with the ball right now, has stepped in beautifully. And he's taken some before. You can just tell from the technique as he's hounded by Lucas Kins. Although he gets to a dangerous area of the field. Shot, another save. Zinoviev. Unbelievable the performance Zinoviev has put together so far. Ireland with 5 goals, and it'd be much more than that were it not for number 13 in white. Talking to the German coaching staff, I asked who are some of the hype mans as Germany comes down, thinks about pushing it in transition. But I asked about who are some of the best hype mans, who keeps the team energized, and they said the backup goaltender, Florian Fallenbacher. They had a smile across their face just saying his name. So while Zinoviev is in net, standing on his head, don't forget about the backup tendies, Florian Fallenbacher, contributing to this German team in more ways than one. Bacherman gets ready to initiate, draws Tig O'Riordan. This is a different matchup for Bacherman, one of the initiators for Germany. He likes to kick things off with the dodge, and it looks like he's going to take O'Riordan behind as he dodges to his left, splits back to his right. He loves to put that shoulder down, but this big Irish defense says no, sir, as Olters moves it over to Werner. Werner's going to be taking a dodge on Andy Myers. Werner goes underneath. Gets it to his right hand, moves it to Eakins. Eakins and Werner playing a halfway 2-man game. Is he going to get a little space from that pick? No, he's not. James Fennessy powers through that pick as Bacherman gets ready to initiate. He puts his shoulder down on O'Riordan, and he catches the double but escapes pressure. Good slide right there by Brendan Bowles. Good job by Germany to test but to not put themselves in bad situations. This is exactly what you're looking for as that swim move by Volkordson. So dangerous, especially from behind the net. Pass to the back side. And here comes Eakins looking to get to the middle of the field. As watch out for that double team. We see Brendan Bowles hunting it, and a pass to the crease. Volkordson unable to handle it, and it's going to be Joe Walsh with the ball in his stick for the first time. Big ask as Joe Walsh came in to relieve Connor Kelly of his duties, something that the Irish team has done all tournament long. Splitting time between the goalies. Joe Walsh's first shot was on a two-man down. Absolute missile. So good to see him get the ball in his stick. As on the backside, Brendan Bowles goes and gives Joe Walsh a little bit of a fist bump, saying, hey, good job on the clear, young king. Joe Walsh at Colgate, and originally from Coronado, California, about 20 minutes away from here. Quite the high school player for the Islanders. As Germany, look at Marius Boots playing, although watch that crafty Aiden Dempsey. He's always so dangerous off ball. And with that, we're going to take a quick break in the action. Don't go anywhere. This game could give us something we haven't seen before. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm excited. Heading into the break, Ireland 5, Germany 4. We welcome you back to the action as that man right there, Aiden Dempsey, a big reason why Ireland has a one-goal lead over Germany. A dangerous off-ball crease attackman. Every team needs one. Ireland knows they got their guy right there. I'm Nick Ocello. Thank you very much for joining me here on a beautiful, positive Friday in sunny San Diego. Couldn't have asked for better temperatures, a cool ocean breeze. And it's going to be Ireland looking to take the two-goal lead, starting in the stick of that man right there, Connor Foley. He gets back to his left, gets to a dangerous area of the field, passes it inside. O'Riordan just unable to handle it. But a great effort by this Irish offense. His body's flying. O'Riordan gets the ball back, passes it to the backside. Corbett over to Foley. Foley can't handle that pass. Ireland with their spots, but those passes not quite accurate enough for an easy step down. And after a big loose ball scrum, it is going to stay with the Irish. Brian Smith moves it to Foley. Foley's going to be dodging on Marius Boots. And a lever pass to the inside. Something Germany's defense has done so well is getting the shooting and skip lanes. That pass was open, but the German defense gets in the way of it, bounces off of a helmet, and here comes the Germans. Patrick Schilling with the ball. He's going to be hounded by O'Riordan as Schilling offloads it over to Per-Anders Olters. And with a full head of steam, here comes Bastian. Bastians moves it over to Eakins. Pass to the crease. Shot. Goal. And Germany ties it up. Lars Volkordson, the dangerous lefty who we've seen initiate from behind the cage a number of times, comes flying from up top, finding the space in the heart of the Irish defense. And this is exactly what Germany needed. Great job taking advantage of that high cut from Volkordson, and Eakins had his hands, had his eyes, had the cutter. That checked enough boxes to say, let's give it a go. And Germany ties it up. Try as they might, Ireland winning the face-off matchup and the time of possession matchup, but Germany just keeps creeping around, not letting anybody separate from them, as number 88, Brian Smith, wins yet another face-off. I think he's only lost one on the day so far. And Ireland with a chance to clear here as we hit the 4-minute mark in the third quarter. A battle for who is the 11th best team in the world here today. This German team takes so much pride in having a homegrown roster. Everybody wearing white today from or lives in Germany. The way these rosters are structured, you can sometimes find Americans who have German heritage. They said, we want a team from the motherland. As watch out, a picture-perfect pass. Aiden Dempsey shockingly can't control it. We've seen him have a number of goals, and while he was wide open, it was the full-field pass that he just wasn't able to handle, but he was all alone. So as Germany pressed out in the ride, I'm not sure why they would do that when it's all tied up. Normally you do that when you're down and you need to push the pace a little bit. Lucky that they didn't give a goal up right there, although I'm sure Misha Zinoviv would have given it his best. As Ireland settles in. Rollback dodge from Foley. Foley so dangerous. He steps in. Shot. Is that a goal or it is not a goal? Hit the side of the net. We call that a mom goal. Well, the moms on the sideline cheering. They saw the net move. Turns out it was on the side of the net. As Zinoviev, as Jules Heichsen helps me out with the pronunciation there, stands tall and makes yet another either save or something that he's done, as we saw early in the game from Ireland. Their shots are not hitting the cage, at least not with the scoring opportunity, as Santowski looks to initiate. Santowski, he's going to be hounded by Patrick McShane, and he looks to offload the ball and does so up top, as here comes Felix Kins. Look at the methodical approach to lacrosse here. I know my spot, Kins says, and let's run a little two-man game with the two Irish short sticks. But look at the grit from these Irish short stick defensemen. These Germans have a little bit of size in some instances, but not enough to just bully their way in, at least not on the men in green. As Per Anders Olters, he gets to a dangerous area of the field, passes or attempts to pass to the backside. Goes over the head of Felix Kins. As Olters, when he gets to those dangerous areas of the field, the entire Irish defense says we are going to stop that guy, which left a little bit of space open on the backside. And credit to Ireland for getting on the hands of Olters, making that pass difficult, and a little bit of a back check right there. Might have been from Matthias Lehna. Sends the ball sailing out of bounds, and 50 seconds left here. Is Germany going to take the lead into the fourth quarter? As the clock ticks away, this clear is so important. They clear it up to Bockerman. Bockerman runs by Garot Dunbar. Dunbar recovers, and we are under 30 seconds here to play. This would be a huge goal for Germany, who's hasn't had the lead since the first quarter of the game, and they could very well have it going into the fourth. Might be out of that man's stick right there, Per Anders Olters. He's been involved in every goal here so far for Germany. And with 10 seconds left, the shot goes wide. Did Joe Walsh get to the backup? Yes, he did. 7 seconds left. And watch out as Aiden Dempsey, he's back ready for it, although ball's on the ground. And time expires. No magic for either team to close out the third quarter. And heading into the fourth quarter, 11th place on the line. We are tied. Ireland 5, Germany 5. More after this. The 2023 World Lacrosse Men's Championship is sponsored by Rady Children's Hospital, the largest children's hospital on the West Coast, ranked among the 10 best children's hospitals in the nation. As we see San Diegans' favorite pastime activity, a little bit of surfing here on a beautiful day. But not here. It is Germany and Ireland in a back-and-forth affair. We're going to see who comes out on top and gets to claim their spot as the 11th best team in the world. And a big part, if Ireland is able to pull it off, Brian Smith has won almost every face-off here so far. Gotta love to see who this tournament draws in, the who's who of lacrosse. Terry Foy, spotted him earlier. Always good to have some of the best reporting in lacrosse, as Terry Foy so often does. As Ireland settles in for the first possession of the fourth quarter. And hang on here, folks. This is going to be a fiery fourth quarter as things got just a little bit chippy at the end of the third. A little bit of face wash, a little bit of extracurriculars, no flags thrown. And that pass is going to go out of bounds. Great job by Peter Whitman to get a lift check as Paul Modesto tried to make a pass. Those lift checks as the passes are being thrown, you might be wondering, how are these good players throwing it over the heads of their teammates? Oftentimes go back, rewatch, and see if the defense was able to get the head of their stick on the hands of the ball carrier. And let me assure you, that makes it very, very difficult. As there's Whitman right there, not only causing the turnover, but getting involved in the clear. As there's Peranders Olters, you can see the lefty craftiness as he runs down with the stick all the way in his right hand, looking to turn it back and get to his left as David Beckman tries to play a little bit of a substitution game. I don't know who they're trying to trap as Kailuka Sontowski dodges to his left. And here comes some good ball movement from Germany. Watch out here, shot goes high. Bastian gets the shot off. As watch out. It still is David Beckman with the long pole there. He gets a ball in his stick before getting it out, playing that substitution game in the attempted pass to the backside. Watch out. That Irish team's so physical, and you knew that flag was coming. As an extra flag on Garrot Dunbar as he says something I can only imagine is unflattering to the German attackman as he runs off the field. That's something you have to avoid. As we heard, a 1 minute illegal body check and a 1 minute unsportsmanlike, making the one penalty into two. Still going to be a 6-on-5 as the dual penalties were on the same man, Garrot Dunbar. But as we've seen, Germany coming out of the half, they took advantage of a two-man up opportunity. Are they going to do it with one right here and take their first lead since the first quarter of the game? Shot and a sting! Are you kidding me? Peranders Olters putting on a show for the German faithful on the sideline. Unbelievable the skill set this kid has. His shot is sneaky deceptive. It's simple ball movement, and you can't give him that space. As Joe Walsh tracked it just a little bit, and look how fired up Peranders Olters is. He dips the head of his stick on his shot release right there. And not only does that have goaltender Joe Walsh thinking it might go low, but it's really hard to track where on the right to left side of the spectrum that low to high shot is going to go. So even though Joe Walsh has put together quite a tournament and is a darn good goalie, that deceptiveness, that sneakiness, those stick skills from 36 in white, too much for most goaltenders as he is the leading point scorer. And coming into this game, he was 4th overall in points for the entire World Lacrosse Championship. Had 16 goals on the tourney heading into this, and he is at the 20 mark. Peranders Olters providing too much ammunition for the Irish to handle. Now, an interesting note here, we have a couple different strategy approaches here. Ireland has won almost every single face-off, but they've been a little bit sloppier with the ball in the second half than we saw them with the first. Some of those passes going over the head, some failed clears, some untimely and uncharacteristic turnovers. But if there's one thing that this coaching staff put an emphasis on, it is gritting out comebacks. They are comfortable playing while the other team has the lead. No better example than the game against Israel. They were down 5-1. Final score was, I believe, 6-5. So if there's a team that can mount a comeback, it is Ireland. A one-goal lead certainly not safe for Germany, not when number 88 in green, Brian Smith, has won most of the draws here today. As Germany puts out a poll, David Beckman to counter. Ireland is still going to be man down. and a violation. I'm not quite sure what that was, as there's a flag down on the backside of the field. Here comes Germany, and a shot goes wide. We're going to need some clarification on what came after the faceoff. I believe what happened was Ireland got possession because of a violation on Germany. They had the ball in their stick, and what they're claiming is that Germany didn't give them 5 yards of separation, which you need to do on the restart, which caused an immediate turnover. So Ireland pleading their case. As we saw that violation right there, now keep in mind, Beckman needs to give him 5 yards, which he absolutely did not. And then Smith gets called for the hold right there. So there's going to need to be a little bit of clarification. Fans and Ireland certainly unhappy, as now it looks like they are 2 men down as the referees get together, figure out what exactly is going on, what's happening. But again, rulebook states that on a restart, you need to have 5 yards of separation. Germany did not, so we'll see how that impacts the game, as it is going to be 2 men up. Keep in mind, it's Garrot Dunbar who not only had the illegal body check, but the unsportsmanlike conduct after. And Brian Smith joins him for 2-man down. And a 2-man up opportunity for Germany. We've seen what they like to do with that, and that is get the best shooter on their team, number 36, Per-Anders Olters, the ball with space. And when you give him the ball and you give him a little space, beautiful things happen. And Germany, could they get a 2-goal lead here? We are certainly going to find out as the referees continue to talk about it, make sure that they're doing a good job. Certainly an exciting start to the fourth quarter here. And it is going to be 2 men up for Germany. And the T's are crossed. The I's are close to being dotted. Again, Germany takes a lot of pride in this being an all-German team and being a truly authentic representation of how lacrosse is played in Germany. Every single player that you see in white lives, trains, and gets better at lacrosse in the German borders, which is really cool to see. Sometimes these rosters can be littered with American players with heritage, and while Germany doesn't knock that by any means, they thought, what if we put together a team of everybody that lived in Germany and put together a squad that can make the black, red, and yellow proud. And they're going to call both coaches out. And if I had to zero in, I think the referee's just saying, listen, fellas, here's the call. Here's what we're going to stick with. And here's my opinion on the matter. You say anything, I'll throw a flag. And it looks like it's just going to be another 1-man down. And it looks like they're going to re-face off here. So the penalty is negated as we see number 88, Brian Smith, who was originally called for a hold. He's going to come back. And I like this move by the referees because he did not have 5 yards of space. So they're just going to say, let's wind back the clock. Let's redo it. And got to say, as far as outcomes go, I don't think either team could complain. German team so proud, a little bit of a Notre Dame connection. Connor Kelly, number 9, the goaltender for Ireland. His teammate, his classmate at Notre Dame, Logan Connolly, actually coaches over in Germany. And after Notre Dame won the national championship, they passed and went over to Germany to do some exhibitions. So a cool Notre Dame connection. Of course, I'm an alum myself, so always got to break that in. And here we go, a timeout from Ireland as Brian Smith looked to escape that pressure. And given the timeout here, game is crawled to a snail's pace, but Ireland decides to take a timeout and say, all right, let's reorganize, let's get everything squared away. We cannot have anything bad happening here. And Rady Children's Hospital is the presenting sponsor of the 2023 World Lacrosse Men's Championship. It's the largest children's hospital on the West Coast and ranked among the 10 best children's hospitals in the nation. So after a bit of a confusion, keep in mind, Ireland is going to be one man down. We thought they were going to be two man down for a hot second before the referees came together and said, let's redo the face-off, which Brian Smith, who thought he was going to be in the box, goes out, wins the draw, and escapes pressure long enough for for the Irish coaching staff to get a timeout. So it's going to be Ireland one man down, and the ball's going to start in the stick of Tig O'Riordan. He had a man-up laser earlier in the game. And after what's felt like 5 years, we're finally back to playing some lacrosse as O'Riordan tries to beat the double here, although really well done two-man game by Germany, but an even better job by O'Riordan to maintain possession. And watch out, Foley beat his man. He's so dangerous when he has his hands in his eyes, but he is a high IQ player, decides let's get all even as Germany sends out Boots to try and double the ball and cause a turnover. Look at the pressure as Matthias Lena is all over Pat Corbett. But a good job by this Irish offensive unit to use the combination of their stick skills and their feet. Oftentimes, it's one or the other. Although, great job by Matthias Lena. He pushes out Pat Corbett, which is no easy feat. Corbett, one of the bigger players on this Irish offensive unit, and a big turnover right there. Great job by Lena to secure possession for Germany, as they are more than happy to have the one-goal lead after Ireland has won the time of possession matchup. I would call it about 65-35. But Germany's clawed back, fought their way back, and this one-goal lead, when you got guys like Per-Anders Olters and Lasvel Kordson on the field, anything is possible, as we see Suntowski and the German offense get settled in. They're substituting right now, so likely won't see fireworks, but watch out as Florian Werner gets ready to give it his best. He moves it over to Eakins. Eakins, Germany taking their time, getting ready to initiate. As Suntowski passes it, good ball movement, shot, goal! Adam Eakins. And the Germans are having a bit of a party after that one on yet another low-to-high elevator. This time, Adam Eakins, are you kidding? Great job by Suntowski to draw the double, which leaves room open on the back side. And that low-to-high, and look at that right there as Bastian does the high step over to congratulate his teammate. And a two-goal lead for Germany. Interesting, as Ireland now needs to do what the Germans did in the third quarter and claw their way back from a two-goal deficit. Just under 9 minutes left on the clock, certainly more than enough time to do so. Good start for Brian Smith as he comes and pushes the ball down, moves it over to Aiden Dempsey. Dempsey, great job by him on the short hop as he does a swim move, feeds it to the crease, shot, and what a save. Are you kidding me? Misha Zinoviev just putting the team on his back, and the kick save out of the stick of Brian Smith keeps this a two-goal game as Connor Foley has the ball in his stick. He moves it up to O'Riordan. O'Riordan's dangerous when he gets a full head of steam. He passes it off. Palmadesso back up to O'Riordan. And here's Somerville. Somerville gets to his right hand. Good defense there by Peter Whitman. As Foley, he's guarded by Boots. Foley tries to get to his right hand. Great defense by Boots right here. Foley pushes the pace, and a goal! Connor Foley says, I'll do it myself. Not only beat Zinoviev, but looked like there was a German defenseman in the cage as well. As we head into the final break, Ireland makes it a one-goal game. Ireland 6, Germany 7. More after this. We welcome you back to the action as we've got all the makings of a photo finish here as Ireland, just before the break, made it a one-goal lead out of the stick of Connor Foley as he goes near side and beats both goaltenders. Not only Zinoviev, but one of the German defensemen says, I'll try and make it two. Not enough to stop Connor Foley. That cut the two-goal lead into one. And again, this Irish team is defined by the grit that they've shown all tournament. Their only two losses have been by one goal, so they're no stranger to one-goal games. As they do have a win, they beat Latvia in double OT. So Ireland always playing their opponents close. As catching up with the Irish coaching staff before the game, they said this team has become a family. As cliche as that sounds, it is the Irish way. As this banged-up Irish team gets into the ice bath, recovers, and you wouldn't know how much lacrosse they've played in the past couple days, given how impressive they've been here today. As Paul Modesto rolls back, gets to his left hand. Watch the backside cut by O'Riordan as Paul Modesto takes a second. He moves it over to Tommy Burke. Great defense right there as Burke gets a shot off. They're going to send Winton Bastion to the box. And that's what happens when you dodge with 100% effort, as Tommy Burke just did. Even if it didn't result in a goal, not only did he draw the penalty, but he got a good look at it as well. And Ireland has a chance to tie it up here. They've been extremely efficient on the man up here today. So we'll see what they draw up. Don't be surprised. Number 95, Aiden Dempsey. Such a crafty off-ball player, hunts space so well. As look at the pressure from the Germans. Creates some passing disruption, but creates space on the backside, a double-edged sword. When you apply pressure on the man down, watch the off-ball cut, shot, and the bouncer goes just high. Paul Modesto had a bit of a look, but Zinoviev has been playing so well. Sometimes those shooter-goalie dynamics can get in the mind of the shooter as we are all even. Germany's penalty is released. Watch out, Foley scored from that exact area a moment ago. He moves it to the backside. Shot, no shot. Aiden Dempsey thought about it before moving it up to O'Riordan. O'Riordan goes over to Paul Modesto, and here comes a big sweep and a rollback by Connor Foley. He's more than comfortable on that high wing. Watch out, shot, and that is going to be wide. I believe it might have flared off Zinoviev, and another flag down as the flags just keep flying. This time it's going to be Fritz Kleinhempel with the slash. As seemingly neither team can stay out of the box. This time it's Germany with back-to-back penalties. We saw a decent look on their last man-up opportunity, so let's see what Ireland draws up here. Starts with Dempsey. Dempsey moves it back to Foley. Foley fakes the pass, gets to the shot, rebound, score! There he is again, Aiden Dempsey off of the rebound. Such an opportunist and hunts that space so well. And what was a great initial save, look at the fake pass by Foley right there as he sells out. Ball comes flying out of his stick. Aiden Dempsey says, hey, look what I found, and it's an Irish step dance celebration. As the tap-tap-taparoo feet from Aiden Dempsey shows how excited Ireland is to once again make it a tie game. And with just under 4 minutes left here, hold on to your seats. It's 7-7. As Brian Smith has done so good winning the faceoff. Keep in mind, Ireland is still man up here. So it is a man-up face-off. What a job right there by David Beckman to keep the ball on the ground. As Ireland, Aiden Dempsey stepped out of the box, so it's going to be German ball. Ireland is not going to have a chance to make it a second goal. Germany has a player on the backside that's been released from the box. Beckman didn't notice it, at least not in time to try and execute an unsettled play. And as we approach the 3-minute mark, what a big face-off win off of the violation from the attackman. That gives Germany a chance to take their time. They've been so patient all day, finding their spots, breaking down the Irish defense. And overall, it's just been the placement of Perander's Olters that has given the Germans their biggest boost here today. As here comes Bastian. Dangerous lefty, watch out, he tucks it in. Is he going to try and get a shot off? He gets to a dangerous area of the field. No flag down. As Volkordson goes to get the loose ball, there's going to be a whistle, and it's going to be for the men in green. So with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, the Irish have a chance to counter as Joe Walsh has the ball on his stick. Now keep in mind the Germans have been pressuring on the ride, but that almost came back to bite them when Joe Walsh passed it up to Aiden Dempsey. Dempsey just couldn't quite handle it. But every time you see the men in white go and try and pressure, just keep that in the back of your mind as we approach the 2-minute mark. And Joe Walsh is going to make a crafty little bounce pass up to Andy Myers. He's going to be guarded by Bastian. Myers moves it over to O'Riordan. O'Riordan was the hero against Latvia. Is he going to be the hero against Germany? So we're under 2 minutes to play. Up to Tommy Burke. Tommy Burke drew a penalty dodging hard earlier. Gets to his left hand. Runs through the slap check. Good job by Alexander Benaisa. As there's the man of the hour. That's who Ireland wants it in his stick. Foley gets top side. Germany sends the double. Great chop check by Benaiska. As Foley gets underneath, shot goes just wide. Tried to just put it over the shoulder of Zinoviev. And as we approach the 1 minute mark, who is going to be the hero for Ireland? Is it going to be O'Riordan? O'Riordan shot goes just wide. I mentioned he won the game versus Latvia in double OT. Had shades of glory on that dodge right there. As 1 minute and 8 seconds to play, this Irish team knows what's at stake, and this is going to be a timeout for Ireland. I wouldn't be surprised if they called the timeout, not for organization purpose, but to give their team a little bit of a break, a chance to breathe, regroup, fill your lungs up with air, fill your body up with water, and get ready to come out swinging, which this Irish team does so well. They have several initiators. We've seen Tig O'Riordan, number 4. When he puts his head down, you see him in the middle of your screen right there. Almost impossible to stop. Combine that with his counterpart, Tommy Burke, right there on the left side of your screen. Those two men, when they get a full head of steam, so difficult to stop. But it's not just size and strength for Ireland. Watch out for number 18, Connor Foley, one of the craftiest and highest IQ players. But if I was a gambling man, 95 in Ireland has been so opportunistic. Aiden Dempsey, what he does better than anyone else on this Irish offense is hunt those skip lanes. Anytime he sees the German defense maybe open up a skip lane, maybe show some sign of weakness, it's been 95 in green, ready to take advantage and strike. 1 minute, 7 seconds left to play. Is it going to be an Irish celebration here in San Diego as both teams look to take their place as the 11th best team in the world here at the 2023 World Lacrosse Men's Championship? Gave Germany a chance to get organized, get settled. German very matchup dependent, although they have done a great job sliding and staying organized. Those signs of weakness that some teams show when they slide and they have two men committed to the ball. The backside defense does such a good job trying to not let number 95, Aiden Dempsey, have any open space. 1 minute, 7 seconds left. And you guessed it, number 18, Connor Foley, starts with it in his stick. He's going to be guarded by Boots. That's a matchup to watch as Paul Modesto rolls back to his left. Here comes Ireland. 1 minute left. Dempsey moves it back to Paul Modesto. Paul Modesto to Foley up top. He tries to get to his right hand, hunts that skip pass. As there's Burke. Burke moves it over to O'Riordan. Tig O'Riordan, he gets ready to dodge. Little shimmy shake before pulling it out and moving it to Paul Modesto. Paul Modesto down to Foley. And we are 30 seconds away from either extra lacrosse as Foley steps in, shot, and it trickled. There was a little bit of traffic. I believe that came off number 32, Peter Whitman, as watch out, that Irish ride, so dangerous. They get the ball back with 18 seconds left. Watch out, unsettled situation, shot goes just high, and a flag coming down on the backside. Aiden Dempsey had the ball in his stick. Shot goes just over the net, but the collapsing German defense. Fritz Kleinhempel, in this unsettled situation, you're just sprinting, doing your best to try and get on the hands of Dempsey, and with 15 seconds left, it is going to be a man-up opportunity for Ireland. Keep in mind, we've seen Tig O'Riordan. He's scored on the man-up, so is Connor Foley. Oh, pardon me, it's 6-on-6. The flag was waved off. So 10 seconds left. We are all even. Paul Modesto with the ball in his stick. Watch that feed to the backside. Foley with 3 seconds left. He's going to sell out here. Shot! And a great save! Misha Zinoviev has been making saves all game long. None more important than that. And at the end of regulation, to see who the 11th best team in the world is, we are going to need some bonus lacrosse. As Connor Foley did a great job just committing to the dodge, saying, I'm going to try and do it all myself. But Zinoviev not just reads it, but gets his entire body down, almost butterfly style. And we got more lacrosse coming up after this. After 4 quarters, that's not enough. Ireland 7, Germany 7. Four quarters, not enough for Ireland, not enough for Germany. These two teams in a head-to-head matchup for the ages here as we head into overtime. As far as how we got here, Germany made it a 2-goal game off of an absolute snipe from Adam Eakins. That low to high, so dangerous. But watch out, it was Aiden Dempsey, ever the opportunist, as he Irish tap dances his way, and that goal tied everything up. And we have overtime. Ireland, no stranger to overtime. It took 2 overtime periods for them to beat Latvia. Germany has yet to have a 1-goal game. And in offense, so important, or in overtime, so important to win that faceoff. Great job by David Beckman to tie up Brian Smith, although Smith does come away with the ball. A little bit of an unsettled situation as they force it to O'Riordan. O'Riordan has a man open, but great job with the pressure of the German defense. Incredible. Ireland had a 3-on-2 situation, but it was Matthias Lena, the leader of this German defense, that applied enough pressure to where O'Riordan said, I'm not going to try and force it, and I might not even notice it. I'm just trying to survive. And he does, giving Ireland the chance to take home 11th place and the glory and the bragging rights. As it looks like Germany is going to get into a zone here. A little bit of a different look. Trying to get in the interrupt the rhythm as Ireland looks to pick that apart. As there's O'Riordan back to Paul Modesto. Paul Modesto down as Foley gets underneath. Shot goes just wide. Connor Foley, he's so good at keeping the stick in his right hand while getting underneath whatever defenseman is on that low wing. We've seen him do it time and time again as Tommy Burke has the ball. Burke. He moves it up. Shot! Goes just wide. Tig O'Riordan has tasted the glory of an overtime goal before. Tried to do it again there as Ireland resets. O'Riordan O'Riordan back to Palmadesso. Palmadesso down to Foley. Foley as this Palmadesso-O'Riordan combo. Watch out. Foley back down. As here's Foley. Thought about shooting. Gets over the top. Shot. Good job by the German defense to get in the way of that shooting lane. Shot doesn't make it. And watch out. That ball's pinballing all over. But it ultimately winds up in the stick of Zinoviev, who has played an absolutely fantastic game. 2 minutes and change left here in what might be the first overtime, as Germany understands that they can take their sweet time clearing, as this clear matters more than any other prior in the game. Back to Zinoviev. Zinoviev moves it over to Lena. Lena so good at not only escaping that pressure, but being the pillar of this German defense, as Peter Whitman moves it up. And there's the man of the hour, Per-Anders Olters. Germany comes away with the win as there's a flag down. So Germany does have a free chance here to try and get a shot off. We'll see what they do with it. Olters, is he going to sell out and get to the middle of the field? He's going to try before he's met by Brendan Bowles. And Germany has a chance for glory here as they are going on the man up. As Joe Walsh, the goaltender for Ireland, takes a big jump and gets ready for what could be the biggest save of his career. Olters starts with the ball. And watch out for Volkordson. He's up top and he's dangerous. Eakins moves it over. Pass to the backside. Now it's up top. And Germany being patient. Shot and a great stop. James Fennessy gets in the way of that. As Germany looks to initiate from behind. Felix Kins moves it up top to the backside. Watch out, so dangerous. There's Olters. Kins moves it back down low. There's Eakins. Eakins moves it up top to Kins. Kins on the backside. Shot. Goal! Germany wins it! Sticks, gloves, helmets go flying as Germany solidifies their place as the 11th best team in the world here at the World Lacrosse Championships. Great patient ball movement from the German offense. They knew they had the man-up opportunity, and what a snipe. You can't write it or execute any better than that. As Bastian is the hero that Germany needed to escape Ireland in overtime. What a game. 4 quarters, not enough. And the German flags are waving in celebration here in San Diego as this tough, gritty, and proud Irish team knows that they gave them everything that they could handle. That man right there, Per-Anders Olters. An incredible game here for 11th place at the 2023 World Lacrosse Championships. This has been Nick Ocello on behalf of me and the entire production crew. We appreciate you tuning in. What a tournament it's been for both of these teams. The conclusion and the rest of the games later today and tomorrow. Thank you very much. This is the World Lacrosse Men's Championship. Ireland 7, Germany 8.